So, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? Okay, thank you for your response. So, let me jump in directly to the challenge introduction since we have taken too much time to start the session. So, basically, this week's challenge is a new challenge, which is about the credit scoring, and you are expected to model risk for the credit scoring model. So, how would you assign this risk? What does it mean by credit scoring? What does it mean? What way is that necessary for the banks that you are trying to do? We will going to discuss about it. And is my screen is visible? Okay. So let me start first. Does anyone have done on the credit scoring model or the credit or anyone knows about how this credit scoring works? Do you have any idea? Let me start from that. You can unmute or you can write. Okay, this is my first time. Same here. Okay, let me tell you one scenario. You want to borrow um, bir from banks here in Ethiopia or from this credit associations. Or today we are seeing so many apps like Duviala or Michu or almost all of the banks have this kind of digital lending. But in the previous time, to borrow a money that the amount of money that you want from banks, either you need to have a collateral or you need to have a certain proof of things that you can't repay that amount in the specified time limit. So banks have their own way of measuring your evidence, like your job, your business, or your business license, or any other collateral that you may attach to borrow that amount of money. You have to have these collaterals. Now, in this old scenario, most of us, or the one that doesn't have these collaterals, that means by means of collateral, you have to have either a car or a house or something like that can be asset. So for you as an beginner in life, because we all are in an early stage of our lifestyle, so we don't have this collateral. How can we lend money or borrow money from these institutions? If you didn't provide collateral, you may not be eligible to get money. So, in order to overcome that, there is a concept that's called a credit scoring, which is a process of assigning these numeric scores for a borrower to reflect how they likely repay their loans or the, the money that they get from the institutions. So how you make this um, thing work? You have to you have to have a certain model because they know that if you didn't pay that amount of money in that specific time, they can either sell your collaterals and their money is reverted back to them. So how can we solve this problem into a recent digital world? And we have to build a simple predictive model that can see statistics and or this machine learning model that can take the person's financial behavior a person's behavior plus its financial interaction with this company. So, based on that, you will model these probability scores. Usually, they are rated from 300 to 850, and who are the most riskiest person and who are the most safest person. So, the lower the number gets, you are not likely to repay your loans, and the higher the number, you are most likely to repay your loan. So this is the basic concept uh, that we have in this specific challenge. So banks will use this score either to approve your credit application or to decline credit application. And also, in addition to that, there is also a term that you need to pay that specific loan. Maybe if you take 10,000 per, you have to return it back to within a month or 2 months. Or if you take 1 million per, you have to return it back into a year, or according to the transaction that you have, according to the relationship that you made with that specific company or the specific bank, and also the collateral that you have bring. So in this specific challenge today, you are going to be the analytics engineer of Party Bank, and which provides this lending financial service provider for the past 10 years, and they want to become a partner for these e-commerce companies and to enable that you are able to get loans. Like their principle is buy now and pay later. That means you can buy by credit and you can pay later. But for for the e-commerce company, this is something that they want because they want to attract customers, and for the banks, they need to be uh, profitable by lending money to this person, because you have seen a certain product on an e-commerce site and you like it, you want to buy it, but you don't have money, so you can simply pass. So both bank and the e-commerce company um, lost you as a customer. So in order to overcome this challenge, they want to provide this privilege. Now you can buy it now, you can pay it later. So, but in this scenario, since they are going to lend you or to give you certain money, they want to be sure, or they want to model their risks. What's the risk of giving you X amount of money for uh, Mr. X, and what is the likelihood of returning back this money, and how long it take to return. So in order to do that, we have to build this credit scoring system that quantifies the potential of the borrower, how likely that they will get the default, and what happens in the future. When I say default, it means when the borrower fails to meet this repayment. So if they didn't return back, so that means that's the default one. Because for the companies, it always takes us this as a failure for them, a failure point. So how this credit scores or creditors build this scores is using these statistical techniques to analyze various informations of the previous borrowers and relationship to the loan performance. But now you can build a model to evaluate who are the potential borrowers who can repay their payment, and what's the score that represents this creditworthiness of the applicants. So in definition of this default, when I say in context of this credit scoring, the financial institution that can comply with this Basel Capital Accord, or it's a bank's common agreement that says this person is creditworthy enough, or within this, uh, they have enough capital to cover the risks that they are going to take. So they have regulation frameworks, and you can refer back to this reference and you can understand what the Basel Accord is. But what it's internationally accepted regulation, so banks will follow this to think that how much money that they have lent. If you remember in Ethiopian fintech sector, most of the banks have seized lending money because they have taken more risk than they are expected to do. So for that purpose, the National Bank have blocked giving loans or things like that. And uh, why this comes because the banks are holding more than the risks that they expected to take. So this may result in the financial instability or risks for them. Basically, the national bank should have to protect them. Because of that, these are the main things or compliance, regulatory compliance that we need to follow while modeling things. So you can understand more about them from the reference attached here. And what's the key innovation or the key things that we need to do in this specific challenge is you have to transform this behavioral data into a predictive risk signal. That means by analyzing the customer recurrency or frequency or monetary value that they have spent in this e-commerce company, and you can see the patterns from that one, and we can engineer this the probability of risk that a company have. So for Bati Bank, you have to train a model and that can tell the risk probability score, which can say that this person is high risk or which this person is low risk. So what's your main goal is to define these proxy variables and categorize their high risk and low risk customers and observe the features that can highly predict this the correlation between the features that you have. If a person spends too much on things that are some things unnecessary, maybe you can flag out that, or you can take pattern. If a person doesn't engage with your e-commerce platform for the past 30 days, maybe that's the other sign. You may have multiple things to model these features from the existing data, and you have to develop this risk probability, as I said, the default metrics, and you can assign the credit scores from the risks that you have estimated and predict what's the optimal loan amount duration. If time permits, you can go to the last two ones, but the main thing is to model what's the risk probability. So for this week specifically, we have a data from Kaggle Zinet challenge, and you have also found it here in the drive. So basically the data have this data fields, which can tell you everything about the data, the subscription ID, the customer ID that they bought, or the currency code that they have spent, the provider. Since this is a behavioral data, you wouldn't find this customer have paid their credit loan or their repayment. So we need to model that one in this specific challenge. So what would be the learning outcome? You will learn advanced use of this scale-learn, feature engineering, model building, CI/CD, class Python, additional to the one that you know, loggings and other essential part of the concepts. And you will have this MLOps, which is the continuous model, continuous machine learning model, and machine learning flow, which is the model tracking one. So you will have that as in addition to what you have. So in terms of knowledge, there will be a reasoning for business context, additional data exploration, plus you know what does it mean predictive analysis in terms of risk and how you can uh, train machine learning models and hyperparameter tunes and comparing model multiple models. And from the communication perspective, you will have reports that can tell what you have done and what you have explored. So this will be the team, and the key dates are today is the June 25, which is the start of the week, and we will have an interim submission on Sunday, and we will have a final submission on Tuesday. So just to standardize what is expected from you, these are a couple of instructions that we have for this challenge. The main thing is we have noticed that most of you doesn't follow the at least the proper way of organizing things. So please try to follow this repo structure that may help you to properly organize what you have in your repository, since your repository is the main gate of the anyone who wants to see your profile. They can start from the gate. So try to reorganize your repository in this way. So as usual, you need to create the new repository, and you have to have at least the bare minimum folder structures here. Then the first task is to understand what's credit risk, or what is the risk behind this credit scoring and the financial institutions. These are the set of reference that have been stated here, and you can have um, a look and understand what the credit risk means. And for this specific task, you will have additional README which says this credit scoring business understanding, and you can answer the following questions and what you have done, what you have understand so far about the credit scoring, what does it mean by default, and what does it mean by Basel second accord, and what's the trade-off between simple interpretability model like logistic regression versus the complex model performance. You can have this one as one submission, and this is the task one is more about understanding the task, understanding what the business context is. And when you come to task two, where you do the exploratory analysis, which you have expected to explore the data, understand the data, uncover patterns, identify any quality issues, or and form these hypotheses that will guide you for the future engineering. And for this purpose, you can use notebooks, and at least you have to point out two, three top important insights that you get. As I have told you earlier, since we don't have anything that any label that a person says replace this payment, we need to understand the data first. So once we have understand what's the statics, the distribution of these numerical features, the categorical features, or any correlation, if there is any correlation identified with that, you can have that, explore that in task 2. And in task 3, you will expect to do the feature engineering, which is called identifying all the relevant features that are necessary for automating this risk modeling, which means what's the data part, what's the encoding, the scaling that you need, and if you are expected to do the scalar pipeline, how can you chain all them together? What are the most important features that you have? And if you need to have additional aggregated features, you can do that as well in this feature engineering phase, because the machine learning, as you have seen in the previous weeks, it needs more and more data. So those more data needs to tell what's the current existing scenario and pattern. So you can have these aggregated features, you can have additional features into from the time and dates, you can extract time and like in hours, in day, in months. So you can see patterns and you can found features, and if this is if any encoding techniques are necessary, you can use either one hot or label encoding for the encoding purpose, and you can have this handling missing values in terms of the features. How can you input, is that by mean or median or any other method, by filling forward or filling backward, any of the standardization techniques. You can use these tools to engineer the features and to get what are the most important features. And from this, we have this weight of evidence and information value, which you need to understand in terms of features. What does it mean by weight of evidence? What does it mean by the information value? So that must be understood into your features. You have where you have to include the understanding of these two things. Uh, while they are alternatives to do um, the risk modeling. And on the other task, which is the task 4, where you are expected to do a proxy target variable, which is the default one. Um, how can you model the risk? Because we don't have anything that says this customer will have uh, a repay or high risk or low risk proxy. So we need to model those customers with high risk values. So basically, what's the concept here is you have to, or this is the key task from the other tasks. You know how to feature engineer, how to perform EDA, but this is the critical tasks that you need to follow and what's the likelihood of getting the default. And for that, these RFM metrics are the essential metrics, that's the standardized metrics we have, and calculate their based on customers' recurrency that they come recurrently to this platform, how long, how much money that they spend, what's the frequency, and what's the repetitiveness of their purchase from your e-commerce site. So based on the transaction history, you can calculate or you can define these dates and calculate the recurrency and consistently uh, the money spent by them. Then on the other side, you can cluster this using the k-mean clustering algorithms into three distinct groups, and maybe based on their RFM profile. So this RFM profile will be the indicators that the customer is in high risk zone or in low risk zone. So you have to define what does mean, what's the level for high risk based on the cluster, and that represents the least engaged customers are the high risk customers, and the highest customer segment should have to be categorized by this low frequency or low monetary values. So you can have the definitions, what's the necessary things for you to model these high risk customers and low risk customers. And you can integrate these variables into a column called what's the risk factor. So based on this risk signal, you can train a model later on, and you can have a predictive model that can calculate that risk based from the alternative data that you have. Since the data that we have is not directly related to the bank, that means the bank's the customers and his bank interaction, but this is a customer and e-commerce site interaction. So we have to translate it into a risk um, signal that can be an evidence for our credit modeling. This customer have this much amount of risk to repay this their repayment. So either you have to approve or you have to decline. So this is also other proxy variable in your credit risk modeling. So for the modeling task, you will add this ML flow and PyTests into your ML flow for model tracking, uh, and also saving the artifacts in a way that can be communicated easily and that can be translated easier to the other team. And also you can select any of the models from the models that are listed here, and you will train models and you will fine tune you will hyperparameter tune. Maybe these are the necessary steps while building the model, and this is the accuracy, the precision recall, the F score, and the ROC curve, and you are expected to report. So you have to include tests and test files that can test the functions or the class that you have written in your scripts. And on the task 6, we expect these models to be deployed. And when we say deployment, you have to containerize, and the model have to be served through API. So for that purpose, we recommend you to use Fast API to serve your models and to include this as requirements for you, and also to build APIs that can be served through Fast API. And the Fast API documentation is good as long as you have added the necessary details to the API. So it it will provide you the docs by itself. So no need to other for other documentation phase. And for the containerization purpose, you use Docker. So since our models or our codes needs to be containerized, they have to work in another system as expected. So we have to containerize them. So you will use this Docker for that one, and also the CI/CD configuration. Since we are familiar with CI/CD, we have to add additional tests, or um, whenever you call the GitHub action, your model, you push to the main, your model should have to deploy, or your model should have to pass the tests that you have added, and that should be enough for the CI/CD part. And from the tutorial side, we will have what's the credit risk analysis, the credit risk modeling, what will be the feature engineering steps, this weight of evidence or information value, and model training and hyperparameter tuning is there, and we have how we can serve models and deploy with Docker. These are the core parts for this week's challenge, and for as usual, we will have interim and final submission. You are expected to submit a report for what you have understand on task 1, and if you have made any other progress on the other tasks, you can add on your reports. And the same is true for the GitHub link. You have to create the GitHub and start the analysis phase. And on the final submission, all you have done for this specific projects should have to be reported. And if you have any screenshots that can demonstrate anything that you have done, then like the CI/CD part, the deployment part, you can add as a screenshots that your GitHub action is passing or failing or interacting with that. You can add that to your GitHub folders under the screenshot section. And this is what's expected from you, the code that you have. So these are the set of reference that will help you to understand the concept more in depth. Um, do you have any question? Any question? Is it clear at least? Okay. If it is clear, at least everyone is aligned and knows where to start for now. So maybe one thing which makes this thing, since we all have um, doesn't have any collateral to provide for banks to get loans, maybe we can use just this is out of ordinary thing, but just maybe you can see it from the other side or from the fun side of the things. Your KM, if we can use your KM interaction to say that this person is creditworthy, can you imagine? Because he have interacted, he have consistently showing up, he have interacted in our meets, he have interacted in Slack, so this person is creditworthy enough to get X amount of money. What do you think? So nobody wants to borrow, or you assume that I don't have anything to. Ah, I think that's it. Let's think of data that we have as an alternative data. Maybe that can help others to get something. So this is one thing that you can take from this week's challenge. So all the data that we have can be converted into money values, and they can be an evidence for someone. Maybe think of like the waiters, and you are uh, for every waiter you are giving both data are the same, so you can use either of them. Think of the waiters, and these waiters receive tips in every of your service that you get. Either you can put them tips 10 or 20 per month. They will get that one. And if you do this digitally, let's say they have a record of that, and a reliable waiter might get more and more tip because they are consistently showing up, they are serving their clients effectively, and this should have to be for them as a guarantee that they have a trusted customers so they can repay their loans. So these are a proxy signs that you might give for the credit worthiness example, or think of the right all the one that gives service. For the ride, you will put a tip. You can add tip on the payment that's asked, and think of it how much time you have taken the ride, uh, how many times that this guy getting these tips, and what's the amount of the tips that he has gaining, and that makes this guy reliable to get 5,000 per, or that does make this person eligible for 1,000 per. Okay, I will do that one. So these are the scenarios that you might see, and this can be helpful things that you are, as a data or analytics engineer, you have to see from multiple angles. For the አለባቸውስ question maybe እሺ ምንድነው ultimately ሀሳቡ መሰላችሁ መበደር ለማንችለው ሰዎች ኦር መበደር ለማይችሉ ሰዎች እንዴት እናስበድራቸው ኦር መበደር እንዲችሉ እናደርጋቸው ነው አላማው። ምንድነው ዩዥዋሊ የሚሆነው ባንክ ትሄዳላችሁ፣ ባንክ ለመበደር ኮላተራል ታስይዛላችሁ። በዛ ኮላተራል መሰረት የጠየቃችሁትን ብር ኮላተራላችሁ የሚያሟላ ከሆነ ያበድሯቸዋል፣ ኦር ማስያዣችሁ ማለት ነው። ያበድሯቸዋል፣ የሆነ ሴት ኦፍ ታይም ይሰጧቸዋል፣ በዛ ታይም ትከፍላላችሁ። አሁን ላይ ስንመጣ ግን አሁን አብዛኛው ሰው ይሄን ብድር አክሰስ ማድረግ አይችልም። ለምንድነው አክሰስ ማይችለው? ማድረግ የማይችለው ይሄ መሀል ላይ ወጣቱ የሚባለው ኮሚኒቲ ማስያዝ የሚችለው ነገር የለም። ሶ እነኚህ ሰዎች ማስያዝ የሚችሉትን ነገር ምንድነው ወይ ሃርድ ወርኪንግ መሆናቸውን ኦር ምናምን 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 ነው እንጂ ኦር ቢዝነስ አይዲያቸውን ነው ማስያዝ የሚችሉት። ከዛ ውጪ ሌላ ነገር የላቸውም። ስለዚህ እነሱን እንዴት እናስችላቸው ነው አሁን ባለው ኢኮሜርስ ካምፓኒ ነው። ስለዚህ ስፔሲፊካሊ ባቲ ባንክ እና ኢኮሜርስ ካምፓኒ ናቸው እየተስማሙ ያሉት። ኤንድ ኢኮሜርስ ካምፓኒው እቃ አለው፣ የሚሸጡ እቃዎች አሉት። ባቲ ባንክ ደግሞ ማብደር የሚችለው ብር አለ። ስለዚህ ባቲ ባንክ ለኢኮሜርስ ካምፓኒው ይከፍላል፣ ከስተመር ደግሞ ለባንኩ ይከፍላል ማለት ነው። ወይም አሁን ዱቤ ያለ ምናምን የሚሰሩበት ወይ እንደዛ ነው። ምንድነው የሆነ እቃ ትበደራላችሁ ከባንኩ ጋር ባላችሁ ሪሌሽንሺፕ መሰረት ደን ትከፍላላችሁ፣ ከዛም ትበደራላችሁ፣ ትከፍላላችሁ ምናምን። ኢቭን የቴሌ ብድራችሁን ብታዩት ራሱ ኤቭሪ ታይም እያደገ ነው የሚሄደው። አንዴ ብድር ወስዳችሁ በመለሳችሁ ቁጥር ከትንሽ ትጀምራላችሁ፣ ወደ ትልቅ ታድጋላችሁ። ሶ ይሄ ማለት ለባንኮች ሪስክ እየወሰዱ ያሉት ለእናንተ በማደራደራቸው ሪስክ እየወሰዱ ነው። ያን ሪስክ መጀመሪያ ቀድመን እንዴት ሞዴል እናደርግላቸው የሚለውን የምናየው። ሶ አሁን ያለን ይሄ ዳይሬክትሊ ከባንክ ጋር ኢንተራክት ያደረጉት ትራንዛክት ያደረጉት አይነት ዴታ አይደለም ያለን ምንድነው ኦልተርኔቲቭ ዴታ። ከዛ ኢኮሜርስ ካምፓኒ ጋር ምን ያክል ገዝተዋል፣ ምን ያክል መኒ ስፔንድ አድርገዋል፣ ምን መቼ ምን ገዙ ምናምን የሚል ዴታ ነው ያለን። ስለዚህ ያንን እንዴት ነው ለነኚህ ሰዎች እንደ አንድ ኮላተራል ተቆጥሮላቸው ክሬዲት ወርዚነሳቸውን ኦር የባንኩ ሪስክ ደግሞ ሚኒማይዝ ባደረገው ወይ እነዚህን ሰዎች የሚፈልጉትን ያክል ብር ኦር የሚፈልጉትን ያክል እቃ እንዲገዙ ምናስችላቸው። ያንን ጥያቄ ለመመለስ ዩዥዋል ማሽን ለርኒንግ አፕሮች እንጠቀማለን። ግን መታሰብ ያለበት ምንድነው ይሄ ሬጉላቶሪ ኮምፕላያንስ ስላለው ሬጉላቶሪ ነገሮች ምን ይላሉ? ለምሳሌ ኢንተርናሽናል ባንኮች የሚገዙበት አስተዳደር ምን ይላል? ናሽናል ባንክም ሌላ የራሱ ሬጉላቶሪ ፕሪንሲፕልስ ይኖሩታል። ግን ይሄ ባንኮቹ መሸከም ከሚችሉት በላይ ሪስክ እንዳይወስዱ አት ሴም ታይም ደግሞ ያላቸው ካፒታልም እንዳይቀንስ ስለሚፈለግ ያንን ባመጣጠነ መልኩ ሪስክን ሞዴል ማድረግ ነው አሁን የምትሰራው። ስለዚህ ያላቸው ዴታ አለ። በዶንታት ዴታ ይሄ ሰውዬ ወይ ሃይ ሪስክ ነው ኦር ሎ ሪስክ ነው ብለን ካታጎራይዝ እናደርገው ሞዴል እናደርግ ነው አልቲሜትሊ። ከዛ ይሄ ኤኒዌር ይሰራል። ለምሳሌ ቅድም እንዳልኩት ለአንድ አስተናጋጅ የምንሰጣት ቲፕ በስራዋ ሳትስፋይ ስለሆነ ወር በስራው ሳትስፋይ ስለሆነ የምንሰጠው ነው። ስለዚህ ያንን ቲፕ ለዛ ሰው የ10,000 ብር መበደር የሚያስችለው ከሆነ ምክንያቱም ደን ቲፑ እንዴት ፍሎው እንደሚያደርግ ታያላችሁ። ከዴታው ስንት ቲፕ ተሰጣት፣ ዛሬ ስንት አገኘች፣ ስንት ሰው አስተናገደች ምናምን ምናምን የሚለው ዴታ አላችሁ። ከዛን ከሱ ላይ ተነስታችሁ ለ10,000 ብር ኢሊጂብል ትሆናለች አትሆንም ቤዝዶን ሌላ አዘር ፋክተርስ ቢኖሩትም ግን አት ዘ ሴም ታይም ይሄኛው እንደ ተጨማሪ ኤቪደንስ መቅረብ ይችላል። ለራይድ ሹፌሮቹም እንደዛው ኦር መንገድ ላይ ቁጭ ብለው ቡና ለሚያፈሉት ኦር ሊስትሮ ለሚጠርጉትም ሰዎች ብታዩ እንደዛ ነው። the way if we have the way to collect those data can be our ፕሮፋይል ይሆናሉ ለእያንዳንዱ ሰው የባንክ ከስተመር። ሶ ይሄን እንደምንሰራው any question ካለ you can have ኦኬ ግልጽ ነው አይደል? መልካም እሺ ጥሩ
ኦኬ አይ ግልጽ ነው። አሁን ስታብራሪ አእምሮ ላይ መጣልኝ ምንድነው እሱ እነ ቴሌብር የሚሰሩት እንደዚሁ በኢሜል አለው ማለት ነው። ማሽን ለርኒንግ ሞዴል አለው ማለት ነው ከጀርባው ይሄን ነገር ለመስራት።
አይ ሆፕ ሶ አላውቅም ግን እርግጠኛ አይደለሁም ግን ይኖረዋል ብዬ
እሺ ቴንክ ዩ።
ሌላ ጥያቄ አለ?
አይ የለም ያው እያደረ መስራት ጀምሮ ጥያቄ የሚፈጠረው ይመስላል።
መልካም እሺ ጥሩ። ስለዚህ አትሊስት ሁላችንም አላይነን ቢያንስ ዌር ቱ ስታርት ካወቅን በቂ ነው ለአሁኑ ለዚህ ሴክሽን። So true. Thank you everyone for joining. Mr. Brother, the recording. Okay, I'm just going to give you raise your hand or something. Which I missed.
የኔ ጥያቄ ምንድነው የተሰጠነው ዳታ ማለት አላማው መበደር የማይችሉ ሰዎች እንዴት እናስችላቸው ነው አይደል?
አዎ።
ግን ቤዝዶን ከዚህ በፊት ባላቸው ትራንዛክሽን ከሆነ እንደዛ ትራንዛክሽን የሌላቸውን ሰዎች እንዴት ነው በዚህ ማስኬድ የምንችለው?
የሌላቸው ሰዎችማ ዳታ ሊኖራቸው ይገባል። ማለት አሁን እኮ በተቻለ አቅም ያለንን ዴታ ትራንስሌት ለማድረግ ነው እየተሞከረ ያለው። ያ ማለት አትሊስት ከዛ ኢኮሜርስ ካምፓኒ ጋር የተወሰነ ለምሳሌ ዱቤ ለመውሰድ ሱቅ ብትሄድ ለማያውቁት ሰው ዝም ብለው ዱቤ ይሰጣሉ?
አይሰጡም።
በሴም ፕሪንሲፕል ነው እዚህም ላይ አፕላይ የሚያደርገው። ግን ምንድነው አድቫንስድ ሲያደርግ አትሊስት ቀድመህ ካለህ ነገር አንጻር ዳታ ፖይንቶችን ያ ሰውዬ አሁን የሚያበድርህ ዴታ ፖይንቶችን ሰብስቦ ምን ያክል እሱ ጋር መጥተሃል፣ ስንት ብር ኢንቨስት አድርገሃል የሚለውን አስቦ ነው የሚያበድርህ። ስለዚህ እንደምትመልስ ላይክሊ እርግጠኛ ሲሰጥ፣ ካልሆነም ደግሞ ቢከስርም ብዙ ማያከስረውን አይነት አይተም ነው የሚሰጥህ። ካልሆነ ብዙ ብር የምጠይቀው ከሆነ አይሰጥህም። ስለዚህ እንደዛ ያንን ሰውዬ ቢልድ ማድረግ ነው እንደ ሞዴል አድርገን። ከሌለው አይሰጥም፣ ካለው ይሰጣል።
ታንክ ዩ።
እሺ እናመሰግናለን። ያላየሁት እጅ ካለ ኦኬ። ስለዚህ በቃ መልካም ሳምንት።
ሌላው ደግሞ የተሰጠው ዳታ ሲኤስቪ ፋይል እና ኤክሴል እንትን ያ ኤክሴል ነው ማለት መርጠን መጠቀም እንችላለን ነው ወይስ እንዴት ነው? ተመሳሳይ ዳታ ስለሆነ
ተመሳሳይ ነው። ይሄን መጠቀም ትችላላችሁ ሎድ ለማድረግ የተመቻችሁ።
ኦኬ ኦኬ።
እሺ ጥሩ በቃ መልካም ቀን ይሁንላችሁ። መልካም ሳምንት። አይ ሆፕ አዲስ ነገር በደንብ የምናይ ይመስለኛል።
እናመሰግናለን። እሺ